Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, September 30th. We're getting today's play of the day. Quick recap of what happened yesterday. Pretty poor day yesterday overall. I know that we ended up losing the play of the day on the WNBA as we had the Las Vegas Aces minus 3.5, which was available on Bet Online at minus 115. Unfortunately, they only won by 3, so we lost by the hook. It was a very close game throughout. Vegas started off very slow, ended up destroying them in the last couple of quarters, but by that point, how do I put this? Vegas did not make a field goal in the last 8 minutes of the game, and they still won by 3. So they couldn't hit a shot to save their lives, and neither could Connecticut. But Vegas went to the line a decent amount. Unfortunately, Vegas was up 3. They had a shot that rolled in and out. Vegas ended up allowing a defensive rebound for Connecticut. Connecticut had 13 seconds left, down 3, proceeded to chuck up a terrible shot, and then they just did not foul with roughly 2 seconds to go after the rebound. So we had a shot there for free throws, but Connecticut had one of the worst final possessions to tie a game I've ever seen, and they ended up not fouling. So we ended up picking up a loss there. And we also picked up a loss in tennis. So we had Delhi in minus 1.5 sets to minus 110 on DraftKings against Berankis. And unfortunately, at some point in the match, relatively early on, Delhi ended up suffering an injury. I'm not sure if it was his hip or if it was his rib, but he's receiving medical treatment for pretty much the entire match, and his movement was completely compromised. He ended up losing in straight sets. So, unfortunately, a pretty poor day. We'll look to bounce back here on Wednesday. Now, I know that everyone wants to talk about the NBA Finals Game 1. However, I'm going to be discussing that game with Scott Steen on tomorrow's morning show, and I didn't really want to give anything out as a play today. So for that reason, we're going to be looking at a look at a line here on the NFL. We're going to be looking at a matchup taking place between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington football team. And for the play of the day for Wednesday, September 30th, we're going to be taking the Ravens first half minus 6.5, which is available at BetMGM at minus 115 at time recording of 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. A couple reasons why I like the Ravens in the spot. I know that they're on a somewhat of a short week, even though they because of the fact that they ended up playing on Monday night and they got embarrassed by Kansas City as Lamar threw for less than 100 passing yards. But at the end of the day, it's a perfect bounce back spot for Baltimore. The game was in Baltimore. Now this game's going to be played in D.C. They don't really have to travel at all. Baltimore should be very motivated to get back on track after getting embarrassed on national television. People think Baltimore are frauds, etc., blah, blah, blah. And we've already seen how good Baltimore is when they face inferior competition. Unfortunately, the Chiefs are just the Chiefs, and they cannot solve them. But if you look at all the other matchups they've had this season, they ended up destroying the Texans, and they also destroyed the Browns. Meanwhile, Washington won its first game against the Eagles, which isn't really looking that impressive right now because the Eagles have looked a lot worse than people thought they would be. They ended up getting smacked by double digits against the Cardinals, and they ended up getting smacked by 14 against the Browns. But to break down both these teams, the Ravens are actually a phenomenal first-half team, excluding last week, of course, and Washington has been a terrible first-half team all season long. To break it down, Washington has actually trailed by double digits at halftime in each of their first 3 games. Even the game against Philadelphia where they came back and won, they trailed by double digits. Arizona trailed by double digits. Cleveland trailed by double digits all at half. Meanwhile, Baltimore has been up double digits in 2 out of their 3 games this season. So they have been a very solid first-half team. They should be very motivated. I think we all know that Washington's going to have serious problems offensively with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback, who has had serious issues when it comes to turning the ball over. Meanwhile, Lamar should be very motivated to put together a solid bounce-back performance here. And Washington's defense, despite looking really good against the pass in week 1 against the Eagles are missing a ton of offensive linemen. And even though Washington has done a pretty good job at least pressuring opposing quarterbacks, they've given up at least 30 points in each of the last 2 games. So they really have not looked that sharp defensively. Offensively with Haskins, they're a mess. Despite the fact that Baltimore got smacked by Kansas City, I'm not going to overreact and say that this team is suddenly overrated, blah, blah, blah. No, they're going to kill Washington. I think everyone knows they're going to kill Washington, especially since Baltimore is not in first place. They're actually a game behind the Steelers. This game is actually very important for the Ravens. But at the end of the day, it's available at 6.5 at minus 115 on BetMGM. A couple other books had it at 7. I know BetOnline didn't even have it on the board. I believe it was FanDuel that had it at 7. One book had it at 7.5. So you have seen lines all over the place, but at 6.5, you want the key number of 7. And it's simply put, I just think that Baltimore's going to come out extremely focused, get out to an early lead. Washington's getting off to a slow start as it normally does. I think the Ravens should enter the halftime break with at least a 7-point lead. So for that reason, the play of the day here for Wednesday, September 30th is going to be on the Ravens minus 6.5 in the first half, which is available at Bet Online at minus 115. That's the installment of Scott's Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.